There we see Tord on the right, Pacco on the left. Tord Reklev, no stranger to these tables, no stranger to the limelight. Perhaps the best player in the world today, cannot stress that enough. Just an unbelievable caliber of player, and no surprise to see him in this top 8. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely. This is something that he's been working hard for. Maybe not necessarily this year, though. He was talking about taking a little bit of time off. Still managed to get himself a day 2 berth and gets himself here. And he would love to add this to his resume, a world championship. There's nothing like it. He's got those 3 international wins, but I'm sure he would trade a couple of them for a world championship right now.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. And, of course, Pacco, we have featured him recently. He is just an incredible player who is playing a different version of the deck that Tord is playing. I think that we can't stress that enough. Despite the fact that this is a mirror match between Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX, they are playing such completely opposite versions of each other. One of these decks, being Pacco's, is just playing a slow and steady game, right? Pacco here, we are seeing on the left, playing this Green's Exploration version of the deck. He not only plays Green's Exploration, but he also plays lots of healing, lots of ways for him to keep his Reshiram and Charizard from getting knocked out.
He has won 3 League Cups. That's what I'm talking about. This is his 2nd year as a player, and honestly, I kind of had that feeling when we had that big game against Gustavo Wada. It looks like he absolutely knows what he wants to do with the deck, and sometimes he just gets a little bit ahead of himself. I'd love to see him with that level head, especially when he's playing up against a player of the caliber of Tord Reklev. If he can do that, he's going to have a little bit more than some League Cups to brag about when he goes home.
Well, he's already got more than some League Cups to brag about. A top 8 finish, no slouch of an accomplishment right there. And, of course, you are right that being new does lead to maybe some inconsistent decisions. At the same time, though, maybe he's just not feeling the pressure that a veteran would quite feel. Now, speaking of veterans, we have one of the most veteran players in this game today to his right, or at least across from him and to our right, and that is Tord Reklev. Just this list could go on and on and on. I am not lying to you. This list could be so much larger if he'd choose to list.
Oh yeah, if we could give him 4 pages, I'm sure he'd fill it with information. But for now, we just need to know he has won 3 of those international championships, and he's also had top 8 at the Latin America Internationals. I believe there's also a
runner-up finish.
There's the runner-up finish at the North American Internationals just a few months ago. So he's certainly been at these tables before and knows exactly what to do. We also got a little sneak peek that he plays those super scoop-ups. He has 3 of those in his deck. That's a pretty interesting addition to a deck that you wouldn't think could fit all of that, especially with 18 fire energies.
So instead of playing Green's Exploration like Pacco plays, he actually just chooses to go much more aggressive, chooses to play a much faster strategy, and just kind of hope his opponent just hasn't finished setting up yet. He is hoping to catch his opponents off guard more often than not. He's been able to do so as he is here in this top 8. He had a 5-0-1 record going into the final round, and he managed to get an intentional draw to secure himself a top 8 finish, which means he has yet to lose at this World Championships, Kyle.
Well, we're going to find out if now's the time. The challenger would love to take that victory right now, but he's going to have to go the long road. We'll see if these prizes are any bit impactful. Doesn't look it.
Well, really, it really doesn't. There is a power plant, but nothing major. Now, of course, 1 Super Scoop Up, 1 Welder, though. A Welder and
looks like a Ninetales, yeah.
Prize here for Tord. We do see that Tord does love to use his abilities. He's not hoping to shut his opponent off of abilities like Pacco might be, and is actually just looking to aggressively knock out the correct Pokemon with Reshiram and Charizard's big attacks. We are ready to get underway, though, as Paccosaurus is going up against Tord Reklev in this top 8 at the World Championship. How about that for a 2nd year as a player here?
This is exactly what you dream about, too. There's no better way to get through the top 8 or potentially the top 4 than to go through the player of Tord Reklev's caliber. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it with style. Tord is going to make you work for it. We already see him starting off strong with those acrobikes, the Cherish Ball as well. And we know he's got a few fire energy along with a Dedenne, so this should be a very strong opener for Tord Reklev. But on the other side, we see Pacco's got that Volcanion, so can't be too sad going second when you start with that guy.
Oh, definitely not, as that is what Pacco's deck tries to do. It plays 4 Volcanion and less Reshiram and Charizards because it wants to have the best possible chances at playing at starting with that Volcanion. And sure enough, he does in this particular case. Tord does play a Cherish Ball to find himself a Reshiram and Charizard on this first turn. He is going first as well. One of my favorite quotes, by the way, Kyle, before we really get underway in this game is, to be the best, you've got to beat the best.
But that was Abraham Lincoln, right?
I mean, George Washington, maybe, who knows? But the point is, in order for Pacco to feel good about that World Championship victory, you got to feel like he's hoping to really be able to obviously take down Tord Reklev and be able to take down the World Championship to go with it. That way he has not only bragging rights for that World Championship, but also a feeling of accomplishment to say that he defeated the best player in the world to do so.
Absolutely. We see that Giant Hearth does come down, so that means that Tord does have access to even more fire energies. Going to choose to forego using it just yet. Wants to save that until after the Dedenne change. So he's going to see these 6 cards and see what he's got up next. I believe it is a Welder, so pretty fantastic for him. He will be able to accelerate some energy onto the board and get himself in a pretty great start. If you can threaten Double Blaze as early as the second turn in this mirror match, you'd certainly love to.
Yeah, Welder, the ideal supporter card for both of these players, as despite having different strategies, one thing is still familiar and similar between the two, and that's get as many energy in play as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, and start attacking with Reshiram and Charizard GX. Now, we see a couple of fire energies come down here from Tord. I believe he's been searching his deck for them with through that Giant Hearth, I should say. He also has 3 fire energies in his discard pile already, so plenty of fire is already out of that deck from Tord Reklev.
Yep, there's always that sneaky Victini Prism Star that he could get into play. So getting these fire energies into the discard pile, never going to be too hurtful for him. Also helps him thin down a little bit, but we see him just go ahead and use that Cherish Ball. Not going to get to use the ability of his Dedenne there. He's already used that once this turn, but it's nice to have that in his hand already. Make sure you don't top deck it on the next turn. Every percentage counts.
Dedenne was that card that he found with that Cherish Ball. And, yeah, I think that this is something that we've already mentioned a little bit earlier, right, about Tord, is that he plays so many fire energies in his deck that we can expect to see similar starts to this one from him, maybe a little bit more consistently than from Pacco. And he just plays so many energy cards in his deck that he's just going to be seeing them way more often than his opponent will. 3 energy here on Reshiram and Charizard. Who needs Volcanion?
Yeah, this is exactly where he wants to be. Also has that Vulpix down, so that means that he will potentially have a way to use Ninetales on the following turn if he wants to bring up a potential Reshiram and Charizard tag team from his opponent. And then he's just a few Welder and Fire Energy away from getting a giant knockout on the second turn.
Decides to switch that Vulpix away from that active position and promote Jirachi.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair strategy here. He can use Stellar Wish up to 2 times in the time that he would like to see all those cards that could help him out. He'd like to find that Ninetales to start, and he'd also like to find a way to move this Jirachi out of the active spot.
Also, wisely choosing to thin the deck by a single card by using Cherish Ball to find that Reshiram and Charizard before he uses Stellar Wish. Wants to give himself the best possible odds of potentially maybe finding another Welder, for example, for his following turn. And, of course, plenty of other cards that he would not mind seeing at this point.
Yep, looks like he even found Heat Factory. You could always use a Giant Hearth and then follow that up with the Heat Factory. It's a pretty sweet combination of cards there. Unfortunately, you would be helping your opponent a little bit. So maybe cards like Pokemon Communication feel a little bit better, could help you find your Ninetales. Honestly, a lot of these cards work pretty well for him. He may even have Ninetales in his hand right there. I can't tell.
That's the other really cool and interesting part about this matchup, Brad, is that these stadium cards all are going to benefit both players with the exception of course, something like Power Plant.
Right.
But yeah, Giant Hearth, and of course other stadium cards are always going to be able to just help both players out. So neither player is going to feel too comfortable whenever they decide to play one of these.
Yep, so we do see Tord decides to go with that Heat Factory.
All right. Tord's turn is still not over, although it seems like it's about to be. Seems to have expended all of his...
He's had 6 minutes of fun so far on this this opening turn, and he's played everything pretty flawlessly, honestly. All the ordering was great. Even Jirachi wakes up, giving him a little bit of a reward for playing that out so well.
And now it's on Pacco to start things off, right? And the very first thing Pacco does is use that Giant Hearth, discards a Fire Energy to find 2 Fire Energies.
Yes, says thank you. I'll gladly take some Fire Energy, sir.
And more importantly for him, perhaps, is that he also gets to take a nice, good look at his deck, try to find out if anything major is prized.
Yep.
Might be getting some pretty good news right about now that everything he really desperately needs is still in that deck.
It really just depends on what the contents of his hand is now. I see Acrobike, so getting those Fire Energies in his hand is certainly going to be helpful for him. Also has that Reshiram and Charizard tag team, so has a place to put all these energies from a Flare starter. Now it really just depends if Tord is going to have a way to handle this Pokemon. If he can remove it before it gets the first attack off, that would be so big.
One thing he has yet to find, at least I don't believe he's found it yet, is a welder. So,
you know what finds welders?
Well, sometimes, right? Let's find out if it does.
Every time. Come on.
All right.
All right, maybe not this time.
4 cards in.
Uh-oh.
Still has not found it. 5 in. Oh, 1 more to go. Does not find it. Matter of fact, found nothing. You had to jinx it, Kyle.
The last time that Pokegear was legal, I played it in the World Championships, and I missed the first 4 times that I played it. So I know that this card can be a savage when it wants to.
Oh, now you say that. All right, Flare Starter is going to be the attack of choice here for Pacco, as that is the end of his turn. Man, not finding a supporter with that Pokegear really hurt Pacco there.
It still hurts.
Yeah. Well, at least that's going to ease the pain, right? Going second and getting a turn 1 Flare Starter, that's basically a welder.
Yeah, for a half second, I thought he was thinking about where to put these energies, and it's actually pretty interesting to maybe put those energies onto the Volcanion. If you think that your opponent could get the giant knockout on your Reshiram and Charizard.
I mean, he would need double custom catcher and a welder.
Well, he's got Ninetales. Who needs custom catchers? Just
true. You're right.
Of course, that power plant did help out a little bit. It means that Giant Hearth can't go grab the Fire Energies before the Heat Factory comes into play, so wise play there. But we do see the Heat Factory come down now. Tord would love to see a few Fire Energies off of this. Potentially a Fire Crystal could help him out a ton here.
Actually, the more I think about it, the more it seems really easy for Tord to pull it. Well,
It's like he built the deck to do this.
I shouldn't say easy, because easy kind of downplays how, the level of difficulty for Tord to pull off a one-hit knockout on the Reshiram and Charizard. But it's much easier for Tord to pull off than for any of Pacco's opponents up until this point. I can almost guarantee that.
I see Welder and 2 Fires.
I see Welder and 2 Fires too, but remember, he also needs to discard 2 Fires to promote that Reshiram and Charizard. And he also needs a Ninetales.
Yep. So we're going to see that Heat Factory, 3 cards.
So still needs a Ninetales and maybe another Fire or so.
Acrobike potentially could help him out here. He also has Stellar Wish. He's going to find the best ordering of this possible. Even if he uses Stellar Wish, he'd have to use that.
Switch.
He'd have to use the Super Scoop Up.
There's a switch.
Oh, yeah, he's got it right next to him. You're
he has
right.
the switch right in his hand, so he's got everything he needs except for Ninetales, right?
Yeah, I think you're on it. He needs Ninetales and a Fire Energy. Has Acrobike and Jirachi as well to help him out, so gonna draw these cards first.
I would say he's a favorite to pull it off, Kyle.
Another
3
Super
cards
Scoop
drawn
up.
from Welder. Communication, something along those lines to bring down that Ninetales. Find that Ninetales from inside that deck. He's already used Heat Factory,
So
I believe.
As the odds are most stacked, you use this Acrobike first to potentially find one of the pieces.
Yes. Finds the Fire.
All right.
Finds 1 Fire. All he needs is a
Communicate.
Ninetales. So if he can find a communication, that would be he has a Pokemon in hand, right?
Yeah, I believe he has a Jirachi in hand. He also would have had the out to use Super Scoop Up to get one of the Pokemon and then use that.
Right, but he does have a Pokemon in hand, which means, at least I believe he has a Pokemon in hand.
Yeah, I think it's the Jirachi is that opening card.
So Pokemon Communication is the key card here. Can Tord Reklev find himself a Pokemon Communication?
Oh, yeah.
There's that Pokemon Communication.
He knew what he was looking for.
Huge draw from Tord Reklev, as that is going to mean he's going to be able to knock out the Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX, and he's going to have a 3-prize lead, and all the energy on the field are going to belong to Tord.
You cannot have a better opening in the top 8 of the World Championships than this right here. He has 6 energies in play. He accelerated 4 of them with Welders. He has 2 energies so that he can use his Ninetales ability, and he has a switch card. He is going to take 3 prize cards, and his opponent has no supporter in hand and a couple of Volcanion.
This deck is just designed to pull this kind of stuff off, despite how difficult it may seem. And despite how many pieces it may need, it just draws and draws and draws until it finally gets it. And there we go. We're seeing the power of the deck in action, the power of Tord Reklev in action, as he is now poised to take a 3-prize lead and leave Pacco with absolutely nothing on the field. There's that GX marker getting flipped face down. There's that Reshiram and Charizard being knocked right out. And there's 3 prizes taken from Tord Reklev.
Oh, insult to injury. Pacco, he draws the Heat Factory. That's already in play. The card doesn't help him at all.
3 cards drawn here from Pacco.
He finds a
off
Welder?
of that Heat Factory. Finds a Welder, but has no attackers in sight. Plays a Welder onto that benched Volcanion to draw 3 cards. Only had 1 fire energy in hand. Are we seeing the beginning of the end here for game 1?
He even had a fire crystal in his hand. He could have got 2 fire energies from that Welder in play if he wanted to. That means that he's not going to get the high heat blast 110 damage. I don't know if that's something that he'd ever even consider going for, or he's just hoping for that Reshiram and Charizard, but he did not find that. He just has another Volcanion. He's just going to have to potentially hit for 50.
Yeah, it seems like it, right? There's a Shrine of Punishment there.
Well, hitting for 50 means that you don't play into Outrage, which is good. But you're not doing too much damage. That Shrine of Punishment is going to help a little bit, so you get a little bit of extra damage. But I don't think this Volcanion army is going to stop Reshiram and Charizard anytime soon.
Yeah, so hitting for 50 means that you're expecting to hit Tord with a Reshiram and Charizard on the following turn. He just doesn't have the tools to do that, though. Which means, I mean, honestly, it just means that that Pacco's just going to need a really huge turn off of he's going to need a really huge turn on the following turn in order to have any sort of a chance to really stay in this game, as Tord is just going to start running through all of these Volcanions turn after turn.
Yeah, we even see that the Victini is in his deck as well, so as he fishes out these last few energies, even if this Reshiram and Charizard were to fall, he is just a Welder and a Victini away from being able to knock out pretty much any Pokemon in the deck with the amount of energies that are in the discard pile if this Reshiram were to fall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been seeing, of course, Giant Hearth at the beginning of the game, and then Heat Factory over and over. I mean, these are just lots of fire energies that are already in the discard, and if that Reshiram and Charizard get knocked out, that's going to be 6 more fightings that head there as well.
Yep, I don't even know if he wants to attach energies at all in a situation like this. Perhaps could start loading up a Turtonator, but he seems to be in a pretty comfortable spot. I think you just take your knockout and you keep on moving.
At the same time, you do not want to play into cards like Reset Stamp, right? So
that's true.
So maybe setting up some sort of like a backup plan could be important.
Pacco does not have much of a hand to himself, but he does have those 2 reset stamps that he could draw into it at any point.
So Pacco is going to need a huge turn here. Remember, Reshiram and Charizard only has 60 damage on it. Tord, playing such an aggressive version of the deck, does not have time to run things like, you know, Great Potion and whatnot.
Right.
So you knew that 60 damage was going to stay there. And that just means that Pacco still has an opportunity to turn this game around. He will just need a huge series of cards to do so. Something along the lines of Reshiram and Charizard, Welder, another energy, and a whole lot of hope. I don't know.
Yeah, does he have another Shrine of Punishment or something? He's to get this all off in one turn, he'd need to do 210 damage, and That just seems to be a number that would elude him at this point.
Yeah, it really does. Maybe if he plays like energy switch style cards.
Yeah, I'm not. He does have one tag switch, but no energies on a tag team Pokemon, so that's not going to help him out.
All right, Heat Factory coming down, getting rid of that giant hearth.
It does find a Reshiram and Charizard, so finally has a place to start attaching energies and maybe start to accelerate.
You can almost see the wheels spinning inside of Pacco's head. He is looking for a way out of this. He doesn't feel like he's quite out of it yet, right?
I see the nerves too, man. He almost played Welder on the bench.
Well, there's that Welder now. He knew what he was going for. He was just trying to shortcut a little bit.
Yep. Come on, Welder.
All right, so 2 energy now on that Reshiram and Charizard. Better than nothing, but still quite a bit away from being able to attack with this Reshiram and Charizard and take that giant knockout. Of course, Outrage just definitely not going to be what the doctor ordered here.
Yeah, but I think
you have to just, wow, it looks like he's just finding another energy with that Volcanion.
Yep, he's got that Flare starter. He can load up potentially for Flare Blitz or from the Reshiram and Charizard. He can just get that 230 damage down, take a knockout. And that all really just depends if Tord doesn't get there first. Tord could just ignore Volcanions from this point on and put some big damage into a Reshiram and Charizard, or he could knock out the Volcanion, and then he's got that Ninetales in order to take out that final Volcanion for the game.
So we do see that that line of play available to Tord. Despite having such a crucial and huge turn earlier on, it's still not quite over. He still needs to do a little bit more work to seal this first game up. Remember, because it's the top 8, they have a 75-minute time limit, but they must win 2 out of 3 games to be able to pull off a victory and be able to advance to the top 4.
Tord's also been playing from ahead very well. He's holding on to all these super scoop ups, not getting silly with them. He knows that if there were a reset stamp, he'd love to have a super scoop up hit on a Dedenne so that he could draw into a hand and clean this game up. So seems to be holding on to all those resources fairly well. Looks like he's just going to use that Pokemon communication here. Wouldn't be surprised if he just grabs that Victini now. That means that he'll have that as a potential attacker once the Reshiram and Charizard comes into play, and could potentially take that knockout on the active here.
Is there, if you're in Pacco's spot, what do you do in this particular spot? Like, what do you do to try to get yourself out of this?
I top deck a green, and I rip a reset stamp, and I knock out the active, and I hope that I never see that Victini ever again in my life. And I hit a power plant, too.
Okay. So, I guess.
So greens into reset power plant is actually not that much to ask for, honestly. With a Heat Factory in play as well, he's got access to fire energies by
all
way of
All he really needs is a greens then.
Yeah, he could certainly find it. He could find Pokegear and miss. That's my favorite play. So we'll see if he can find that greens and help him out here.
Which means that if you're Tord, you have to be expecting something along those lines, right?
Yeah, do you think that Tord maybe uses one of those super scoop ups and gets Victini down with a fire energy this turn then?
I was thinking potentially so, and it looks like Tord agrees.
Can't go all your way.
Yeah, no kidding.
Or can it?
There we go. He's about to prove you wrong, Kyle. Yes, he is. He hits that heads.
Don't pick up the active.
So now I think you just pick up the damage to Dene.
I think you pick up a damage to Dene, play down Victini, and you're feeling great.
I completely agree. I think that you absolutely want to pick up or bring down the Victini, though. You do not want to get fancy with any type of like the Dene play or anything like that. Victini is the whole reason why you're playing that super scoop up, I believe.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. I may have missed one. 7 or 8 energies in there.
I felt like there was 7.
14 if this Reshiram were to fall. That equals a lot from a Victini.
It's 20 times, right?
Yep, so that'd be a
280.
280. How much HP does Reshiram Charge have? 270?
Less than 280.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
All right, so the math is checking out. We see the Victini come down.
One for good measure.
Looks like that's a Tails. Yep.
Yep. So has he played Welder this turn? Because if not,
100%.
that wouldn't have been it yet. He wouldn't have those fire energies in the discard pile.
Yeah, he has not played Welder because he doesn't have any energy in play, any additional energy in play. So there we go. That Welder brings 2 energy onto the Victini. Is that checkmate at this point?
We're getting very close to it. You'd have to think.
Like it's like check and mate in 2. It's something along those lines. It's really, really close to being over here.
Checkmate.
Yeah, as Pacco is just running out of options.
We do have a little update from our other games. Blaine Hill is up 1-0 in his match, along with Henry playing in the Australian match. He's up 1-0 against his fellow countryman.
Is it too late for me to keep the analogy going and say bishops, knights, and bishops and knights are going down, but pawns are all that's left for Pacco?
If I say yes, does that mean that you never said that?
I would take it all back.
Okay, yes.
I take it all back.
All right, you guys didn't hear anything.
Rewind. Let's start from the beginning.
I know what pawns are.
All right, so Victini actually is now the active attacker. I did not expect that. I did expect for the Victini to stay in the back.
I mean, this just makes his opponent have a little bit more. He's going to need to bring up a Reshiram and Charizard regardless to take the knockout here. But yeah, it is a little bit curious. I mean, realistically, he knows he's going to take a Volcanion knockout to win the game. If you flood your deck with 75,000 fire energies, you're probably going to find them for your Ninetales to win the game.
Oh yeah, that is a Ninetales card. You're right. That card does exist.
That's what that little thing is on the pitch.
All right, Ninetales, of course, is going to be that route to victory for Tord. He is down to a single prize now.
All right, now this is where Pacco takes one of those super scoop ups from Tord's discard pile and gets that Volcanion out of here because that thing is really slowing him down. I feel like that's just going to be the anchor that he could not stop.
Like, it's like, even if you hit your reset stamp, the odds of Tord drawing a fire energy are like 50%, right? So
it's almost his whole deck.
Yeah. Let's say at least 50%.
How many did he put in? He put in like 8 or...
Yeah, he put in 7
or 8, yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And I think he was down to like 5 or 6 cards.
Oh, you know what? He might have even put in more because Reshiram and Charizard
they retreated.
Paid 3 to retreat, so it might be like 10. And I mean, that just means that he's very likely to draw a fire energy. And each fire energy, remember, the first one means a heat factory for 3. The second and third one mean just victory.
There's step 1.
So that is that reset stamp that we were just talking about. Normally this would be huge. Normally this would just be potentially game breaking. But given Tord's deck size and given that heat factory in play, and given the fact that he can just naturally draw 1 card and then have his 2-card hand be double fire energy.
All right, let's see if he can find this green here. This would be pretty important. He'd be able to maybe get this heat factory out from the field and also find himself maybe that other custom catcher. I believe that's what he's going to be looking for. Yeah, he does find green, so we could see custom catcher along with power plant, and that could give him the knockout on the Reshiram and Charizard. And then Victini would not have a knockout available. It'd only be doing 60 damage.
Does he still have something like a power plant left in his deck, though?
I believe we've only seen one, but certainly we could have seen one hit the discard pile.
I know we've seen the Shrine. I know we've obviously seen the Heat Factory. But, I mean, that really comes down to, does he have a power plant left in the deck? If he does, then obviously it's going to look a lot better for Pacco here. But if he cannot counter his own Heat Factory, then the majority of Tord's deck means that he'll be drawing 3 additional cards on this turn.
Pacco's trying to figure out what the best line is here. Going to go ahead and use that green.
Exploration. Will he find? Will there be a stadium there, and will he find that stadium?
I'm not seeing it.
I don't see the stadium either.
Dedenne would have been a huge draw then for Tord. Not sure what he has left available.
There's a power plant in his prizes.
Not only would removing the Heat Factory be huge because that fire energy, you could draw 3 cards, but also just limiting Dedenne coming down off of with that Dede change would be big. So in 2 ways, that card would be so impactful, and I'm just not seeing it here.
I mean, his hand is so huge. He has double custom catcher. He has pretty much everything you could ever want, right? Except for prizes taken, with still 6 prizes to go and so many different threats here from Tord. He does have the double custom catcher, though, which means that the Reshiram and Charizard could get knocked out right now. Remember, Victini's already attacked, so there aren't any fire energies in the discard pile. Does Pacco have what it takes to turn this game around?
He's going to take a look through his discard pile. I'm going to join him. I do think I see 2 power plants in there.
Well, no, there's 1 power plant in his prizes for sure.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So he does not have access to that.
Okay, so now we know that he didn't have access to that power plant, which means even if he was looking for it, he would not be able to find it, which means that Heat Factory is going to stay in play. And it's going to stay in play until the game's pretty much over, which means Tord's going to be drawing 3 additional cards a turn. I thought he had a double custom catcher in his hand.
Yeah, I think he only had the 1, and he chose not to go after the second one. This means that if Tord decides to go for it, he could promote his Reshiram and Charizard into the active spot, and he would just be 3 energies away, which is pretty difficult. So yeah, he's going to go ahead and use that Jirachi instead.
Well, so there's the Heat Factor. Remember, his deck is huge.
But it's all
There's that
3
fire
fires.
energies. I almost knew it was going to happen.
It's not
like
the
I felt
active.
it deep inside.
So he could use Jirachi.
Oh my
Maybe he has a switch card available. Maybe he has a Cherish Ball to potentially grab that Dedenne.
I don't know.
All right, so he can use the Heatran here, and yeah, he's going to go ahead and use that ability,
that
bring the
Heatran.
energies up, and take that knockout on Volcanion.
Oof. That almost got out of hand there for Tord. He was dominant the entire way through, but he needed that last bit of hope, and that Heat Factory could not get countered, which meant Tord was going to be able to draw additional cards every turn as long as he kept finding fire energies. And since all of his deck was fire, basically, it led to this kind of a result. I can't tell you enough how much I felt deep down inside. You know how every once in a while you just have that gut feeling and you just can't shake it?
Yeah.
Deep down, I just knew he was going to draw triple fire.
Well, you were right, and it did happen. The odds were pretty good for it to happen as well, too, though.
Watch, the entire deck is just fire energies. I'm just hyping myself up. The Renaissance man over here.
We're going to have you do birthday parties for kids.
Oh, man. But, yeah, so Tord Reklev just had such a dominant victory here.
It almost went away.
It was almost a 6-0 victory, too, though.
It got weird, and he was trying to make sure that he had the best outs to win, and it almost cost him. I don't know if there was a way around it that would have been a little bit better. I'm not going to be here questioning Tord's play styles and abilities, but it got very scary when it felt like it shouldn't have, if that makes sense.
So here's the thing is, I think he knew it was going to get weird at some point, right? Like, the moment that you start knocking out Volcanions, you're like, okay, at some point I'm going to have to face a
right, yeah.
And at some point I'm going to have to get a little bit lucky. But I've gotten so far ahead that I think it's possible, and I think that I'm still a pretty heavy favorite to win this game. And of course, me being Tord.
Wow, it's a pretty good life you're living, man. Congratulations on all the internationals.
We upgraded here.
The blonde hair suits you.
Tord Reklev now up 1-0 against Pacco.
Well,
One
Pacco's
more
still
game
in
to go before
great spirits.
Yeah, no kidding. Like I said, it's one thing to to be a veteran of the game and be in the top 8. You feel so much pressure. You feel so much. The weight of the world is on your shoulders. But when you're Pacco, this is your second year playing, you can genuinely say, oh, I'm just happy to be here.
Right.
Yeah. And it's actually going to be true. It's not something you just tell yourself to psych yourself out. It's the actual bona fide truth. You are just happy to be there in that moment. And to be facing off against, one of the game's best is just, it's a feel-good moment despite, the fact that you lose game 1.
New Clive?
I don't know about that quite yet. Those are some big shoes to fill.
Oh, man. Where are you, Clive?
Still jiving with Clive in here. All right. Pacco and Tord still shuffling up. Remember, one more victory for Tord to get to the top 4. That bracket absolutely stacked. You would love to become the world champion in this particular bracket, I believe. I think that this is one of those worlds where once you achieve that victory, and once you're able to look back and say, I defeated some of the best players in the world in this top 8 to get here.
Absolutely.
This was not handed to me. That's just a major, major feel-good moment. And we have our first result of this top 8, Kyle.
I'm going to have to buy that kid a soda. Man. Yeah, Blaine Hill, he won his match 2-0. He is going to be in the top 4. Fun little tidbit I'll share about Blaine is that I've grown up in South Carolina. He plays in North Carolina. And ever since he was a pretty young kid, 9 or 10, he'd be playing in the juniors and eventually into the seniors. And every time that he won a tournament, I told him I'd buy him a soda. And I saw him round 6 today, and he's grown up a lot since then. And I looked at him, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to buy you a soda, aren't I? So I'll have to ask him what his flavor choice is if he keeps this up, because he is in the top 4 of the World Championships.
This actually only tells me one thing.
I like soda?
No, congratulations. You've officially entered old age.
Yeah.
The people who you've been mentoring and whatnot are now in the Masters division playing in the world's top 8.
I'd like to take some credit for Blaine, but I will not, because his brothers turned him into a GOAT. Absolutely. Those guys are top tier.
All right, here's the second result of the evening here in this top 8, and we'll get to that in just a second as we are seeing some prizes. The first thing I see is 2 Jirachis and a Ninetales.
Yep, that's going to make me check the old tablet here, because how many Jirachis are we running? That's definitely a scary thing to see. If
we
you're
saw
Tord,
one Ninetales prize last time.
Does play 4, so certainly stacked his odds there. So he could find that Jirachi and help himself out. Tord's going to go check out a Hoopa to start the game. Come on, man. You've had to have seen at least one of those throughout this tournament, right?
He has taken the year off.
That's true.
All right, but yeah, we have our second result of the evening while we start to get underway here in this game 2 between Tord, Reklev, and Pacco Saurus. Henry Brand has won his match 2-0. He is now in the top 4 along with Blaine Hill.
Yep, that's right. He was able to take down his countrymen. He is going to bring Australia into the top 4. And what a huge accomplishment for him as well. We've had him on stream, and he was in such great spirits. He was taking the game at the perfect pace, and he had a deck that he really trusts, and he has taken Mewtwo into top 4. So. And
that's one former world champion down. Kywin is now eliminated. That is going to be the end of his world's run here in this top 8. But now let's get back to action as we have Pacco Saurus down 1-0 against Tord Reklev. Pacco playing the greens exploration version of this deck, plays a slow and steady strategy, tries to keep the game going for a little bit longer than Tord's strategy does, as Tord tries to just rush energy onto the field as fast as possible and then start using things like Ninetales and Jirachi to further his game plan, and of course Ninetales to slow and potentially eliminate your opponent's attackers down.
Yeah, if you ever want to see how Tord's deck is supposed to work, just go visit the VOD 10 minutes ago, because that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was as perfect a turn as I think I've seen this weekend. Now Tord starting his own turn, Pacco really just getting one energy in play on his Reshiram and Charizard.
I got scared for a second looking over at Tord's hand, but thankfully for him, he does have a Cherish Ball. That will help him out a great deal. He needs to find that Dedenne so that he can start moving. Potentially could find some outs on the Heat Factory as well, so we'll see if those help him out here.
Yeah, first things first is that Heat Factory. I think that found him as Dedenne already.
That found him a welder too. That's what the kids call juice.
All right, well, that welder right here is going to start to power up your Pokemon, but you want to ideally get more than just one fire energy in play. I think there's an Acro Bike in his hand as well, but first he's going to be using Cherish Ball, of course, wanting to thin his deck down before he starts to commit additional resources.
Yep. Always correct there to go ahead and thin out by 1 card. He did take a peek, and there was a fire energy on top, so...
Never feels good.
Should have never done that. What are you doing? Who thins out their deck by 1 so that they could help their odds when it's just sitting on the top?
I must have lost my superpower because I didn't feel that fire energy on the top of the deck. It was good while it lasted, but...
It lasted for 4 seconds.
I don't choose when the superpower comes on, Kyle. It just happens.
I don't want to sway sense. I don't want to know what it feels like when it tingles.
The sway tingle?
Yeah. That can go on the plane with you.
All right. Reshiram and Charizard comes to the hand here. Cherish Ball. Finding that Reshiram and Charizard, just such a powerful item card, really. Cherish Ball has just been maybe the most played item of the weekend.
Hey, okay, so he did find Giant Hearth here. That will be able to give him the energies that he needs.
Oh, that's huge. That's awesome. Giant Hearth, of course, replacing Heat Factory never feels good when you're toward Reklev there. But in this particular case, being able to replace it is going to just lead to so much potential aggression here, as he'll be able to find himself his fire energies, and that's going to mean a much stronger welder. Finding out which card he wants to discard first.
Yep, doesn't want to use that Super Scoop Up. Doesn't really help him here too much, so
yeah, Super Scoop Up is just not as powerful in this matchup, right? Because you're just trading big hits.
Yep. Of course, there was a little riskier line where you could go ahead and discard a fire energy and go grab 2 more fires there, and then you're pretty likely to find another fire. But if you miss an energy attachment, you just feel terrible. So not going to take any risks here. Go ahead and have 3 fire energies so that he can get 3 onto that Reshiram and Charizard, potentially 6 on the following turn. If he could do what he did last game, we will not see much Pacco anymore.
Well, I mean, just because he pulled it off last game does not mean that he's a favorite to pull it off this game, as he is now shuffling his deck after finding those 2 fire energies. It's a tall order, no matter who you are, including being toward Reklev. Finds those 2 fires, though, and they do go to his hand now. Are we going to see this welder now, or is he going to try to make some additional plays before doing so? I think at this point you probably just go for the welder.
Yeah, I would love to see the welder here. Just go ahead and get everything set up for yourself.
And he agrees as he plays that welder, plays the 2 fire energies, is going to draw 3 additional cards. We see just how many cards the deck can draw at times, and it's designed to do so. Vulpix is still the active Pokemon here for Tord. It's in a little bit of a dangerous spot. With 2 Jirachis prized, it's a little bit less likely for him to be able to start getting a Jirachi chain going, but that is what Tord was kind of hoping to do.
So how do you feel about just passing here? You would leave the Hoopa not being able to get any relevant damage off, as no abilities are in play. Your opponent would then have to go and find Welder and a way to get out of the active spot just to knock out a Vulpix. And if they do knock out the Vulpix, you just blow them up with a Reshiram and Charizard. I think this is exactly what he wants to do. He's got Dedenne, but he doesn't need to get wild.
Yeah, I mean, plus his hand is really fine still, right? He still has the Welder in his hand. There's still the Giant Hearth in play, which means that you can hope that it doesn't get discarded over on your opponent's turn. I don't see a reason to play Dedenne, as you've already you've already done pretty much everything you wanted to do this turn. The only reason to play Dedenne would be to find some Jirachis and start getting some Stellar Wishes going. But that's just not a good enough reason to do so, and I think you hold on to your hand and you hold on to the resources that are there.
Yeah, playing those abilities into Hoopa, you don't want to reward your opponent when you obviously can see the damage output right in front of you. So choosing to just go with this nice conservative route, just a little change of pace, and over on Pacco's side, he's just going to grab a lot of fire energies. It seems to be all he's been able to do for a little bit of time. He's got a huge hand, but half of it is on fire.
Yeah, well, I feel so bad for him, because that's kind of what's been going on this whole round again.
Look at Hoopa.
Okay. Were you expecting for the energy to go on the Hoopa?
Don't make me read this card. I don't want to know what the second attack does, but I see it's got 3 colorless, so I'm sure it does something that can knock out a Vulpix. Yeah, it's got Mind Shock. I'm going to act like I knew that. 80 damage.
So here's the thing is, yes, you'll knock out a Vulpix, but it's going to cost you 3 energy to do so. And then you're still going to have only 1 energy on a Reshiram and Charizard.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be.
I don't think that's a play that has a winning line attached to it.
I 100% agree with that. Taking out this Vulpix, of course, it does protect your Reshiram and Charizard for a little bit, just because you know Ninetales won't be able to come into play and take that Reshiram and Charizard off the board, but your opponent could easily remove 3 fire energies from play, and you're going to be on the back foot once more, as you only have that 1 energy on a Reshiram and Charizard right now.
Yeah, like, let's talk it out, right? Like, So we know, because everything's on the board right now, we know that he's going to be able to knock out the Vulpix, and now we know that Tord can easily reply with a knockout on that Hoopa. And then we know that that Pacco's left with only a single energy in play. So best case scenario for Pacco is he deals something along the lines of 230 damage to that Reshiram and Charizard. But now Reshiram and Charizard is already going to have 4 energy attached to it, which means it will not struggle to knock out that Reshiram and Charizard on Pacco's end, which means Pacco would end up losing 4 prizes and still not knock out that Reshiram and Charizard here from Tord. That's just what we know that's already on the board.
Right.
So that's why I'm not convinced that that Hoopa should be the attacker here, but I understand the logic behind it. You know, you don't want your Reshiram and Charizard to be the first one to take damage.
I love this. Tord's just going to go very, very aggressive. He gets all the energies on the Reshiram and Charizard. Shouldn't have to commit number 6. He probably should go ahead and attach that elsewhere if he has a Pokemon that he'd like to, maybe Victini.
And that's exactly what I wanted to see here, too. We see another Vulpix. So this is where he starts to establish that first check. And by that, I mean, yes, we already know that he's going to have this this line of play, which we've already discussed, which leads to Pacco not being able to knock out the Reshiram and Charizard from Tord. But by playing the Vulpix down, it means you're threatening a Ninetales, which means now Pacco can't hide behind another single prize attacker or anything like that and hope to surprise Tord with a 6 energy Charizard at a later time. He now knows that the Vulpix is right back, even though he knocked the Vulpix out in the previous turn. That Vulpix is now threatening to become a Ninetales and bring up that Reshiram and Charizard if it's trying to hide behind other Pokemon that could be Pacco's other backup strategy. So at this point, I'm really seeing Tord take over this game.
Yeah, and we see Tord even now. He did decide to play that 6th energy onto the Reshiram and Charizard. This means that if something bizarre were to happen, maybe a reset stamp and he would never find another fire energy, he does threaten the knockout if a Reshiram and Charizard becomes active and starts to get a little aggressive. He has the option to take a giant 300 damage knockout and then follow that up with a Victini to potentially win the game on a tag team Pokemon. So he gave himself the option there. And of course, if Pacco decides to use double custom catcher and remove that Vulpix so that no Ninetales ever gets into play, he's got a giant Pokemon that's going to do 300 damage. So I would not be worried at all if I'm Tord.
Yes, exactly. That's the line that I think we could see last turn when Pacco chose to use that Hoopa attack. It's all on the board. It's all something that's just going to start to play out the way we described, which was Hoopa knocks out Vulpix, Hoopa gets knocked out. There's only 1 energy in play for Pacco, and now Pacco is just struggling to get very much going. Now he promoted that Volcanion instead of a Reshiram and Charizard. It does imply that he might be trying to hope that Tord cannot find that Ninetales and try to fish out that Reshiram and Charizard out. But if he does, then I mean Pacco's just gonna be left with nothing.
Yeah, Pacco's trying to find the answer here. Don't think it's gonna be in that Volcanion, but we'll see. Goes ahead and puts that Pokegear where it belongs. It has not helped him out at all very much. Does find his last fire energy. He's been going through his deck. He only plays 11.
Doesn't play 18 like Tord does.
What a fool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a different strategy, of course.
I think 18 in his deck would be terrible.
Of course.
It would not make any sense.
The standard number is around 11. Sometimes you do see something like the 12th energy, but it's just a different strategy, right? Of course, Tord plays quite a few extra fire energies because he wants to use this Ninetales aggressively, and in order to do so, you need to commit more fire energy to your deck. Now, of course, Pacco's deck is going to be playing lots and lots of item cards that Tord just cannot afford to do so because Tord's going with a different strategy there. But like we said here at this point, we have 3 fire energy on this Reshiram and Charizard. It's powering up, but it's trying to hide at this point.
He found double custom catcher on accident.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like one of those cartoons where like this big giant is hiding behind like a little kid or something like that, hoping he doesn't get caught. That's exactly how I feel Reshiram and Charizard is behaving behind a tiny little Volcanion. Hasn't even gone into GX. Hasn't even become a GX yet.
Don't look over here.
He can't see me. He can't see me if I close my eyes. So now we're seeing an actual potential attacking Volcanion.
I mean, he's got He-Drew Duffel Custom Catcher. If he wanted to knock out Vulpix, he could. He could also soften up this Reshiram and Charizard, which seems to be a little better of an option for him.
I like that. I like that play a lot better than I like just keeping 3 energy on Reshiram and Charizard, by the way. I actually like this play quite a bit because now you are threatening Tord with multiple attackers. So now even if Tord does find that Ninetales and starts to bring up that Reshiram and Charizard, at least you're still going to have a Volcanion with energy left on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but he desperately needs a welder if he's going to make an attack like that, and he does not have it.
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
This is bad.
Yeah, it's a really, really rough spot for Pacco to be in. Mostly because of that Vulpix that's in play, really. That Cherish Ball, just thinning the deck out one more time, or potentially could be combined with a Pokemon Communication.
Yep, is going to find that Heatran. Of course, it's not going to be too great for him, being that that power plant is in play. Certainly could see Tord make use of the Pokemon Communication here.
We've seen that Heatran do work before. Tord now still shuffling his deck. Can he close this game out? It was a dangerous line of play from Pacco before when he chose to attack with that Hoopa. And to be fair, you know, none of his options looked particularly amazing, but it was a dangerous line of play, and it unfortunately for him, it is starting to backfire. But it hasn't finished backfiring yet. We still need to see.
Tord needs to find a stadium card here. I feel like that's going to be what really opens this this window for him. He is holding an escape board as well. So if he does, he also has the option to retreat. I think he found a Hearth.
He has a giant Hearth there that he can take. That would allow him to start attacking with Heatran if he'd like. I mean, it would allow him to start doing quite a few things. But that is one of the few things that would be available.
The other thing is win.
Yeah.
He's getting really close.
He doesn't have the Ninetales quite yet, though.
Yeah, he's knocking right on that door. He's going to have the Hearth for the fire energies. He can, of course, use his Pal Pad, maybe shuffle in some of those Welders. Those would be fantastic top decks off of a Dedenne.
Absolutely wanting to Pal Pad those 2 Welders back into the deck. Pal Pad, a card that just doesn't look all that powerful, right? Like, why would I want to spend 1 card shuffling 2 supporters back into my deck? Well, it turns out, as it turns out, getting 2 Welders back into your deck just gives you so many more resources.
That's 6 Welders.
Yeah, that's 12 more energies you can accelerate.
That's good.
I know math.
I was walking around back here earlier, and I heard Puka say, "If you could play 10 of those, I would." 10 Welders.
Yeah,
like, I would. Yeah, that'd be a really good card.
Then I think everybody would be playing something along the lines of those 18 energy.
Yeah, let's play some blacksmiths too. Let's get real spicy with it.
Okay, so
here's the Dedenne.
Dedenne finding 6 new cards for Tord.
Acrobike, Cherish Balls. He could use those Cherish Balls first, thin out, get a couple Pokemon.
No communication in hand?
Acrobike could then find Pokemon Communication. Man, we're on it.
Okay, there it is. There's that out. So Cherish Ball finds a Dedenne. I mean, the Pokemon itself, not quite as relevant.
Did see the Ninetales in there as well, so.
There is still 1 Ninetales in the deck. Remember, 1 of them is still prized, I believe. Tord has taken 1 prize, so it could have already been found from the prizes, but I don't believe it has.
Tord's just going to take a quick peek, see if there is another GX Pokemon that he can grab. We do
see that Ninetales in the prizes for Tord.
Tord does not see another GX Pokemon, so doesn't need to use that other Cherish Ball.
All right, so finding a communication would be key. He's done it before, Kyle. Remember, he has pulled this off before in a very, very similar fashion. Can he find the communication again?
Yep, wisely using that Cherish Ball as a way to grab those 2 fire energies by way of Giant Hearth.
So clever to just keep thinning the deck as much as he can before finally putting all of his chips on the table.
He has not played a supporter for the turn, correct? I believe we have not seen even like a Welder, any way to get through and just see a few more cards.
Has he already used Stellar Wish? I believe so, right?
Yeah, he has used Stellar Wish.
So
now he's got that
Acrobike. 2 cards to go. Will he
scoop up?
All right. Can Super Scoop Up give you another Stellar Wish, maybe? No?
Better than a Jirachi, I guess.
I don't think it gives you another Stellar Wish.
No,
though.
that's not going to help him out. He did not find another supporter.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Oh, man. This got weird. I just thought he'd do it.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of assumed it was going to be down.
It's Tord.
I was like, all right, let's go through the motions.
He's just going to have to find a different Pokemon. He can just, all right, well, Victini, you want to play? Here you go.
Turns out you can thin the deck as much as you want, but if the deck does not cooperate in the end, then you're still back to square one. He looks...
What do you mean this guy's human?
He takes a look at how thin his deck still is, almost incredulously.
I missed. I put 2 welders in there.
I mean, really, if you think about it, there's got to be still some communications left in there.
There's so many outs that are available to him. Absolutely.
So many cards you could have found through that.
In the end, it was an Acrobike. It only sees 2. Certainly could miss, and he did.
And just passes the turn. Stays asleep.
Jirachi doesn't want to watch this.
Keep your eyes closed, little buddy.
It'll all be over soon. All these fire energies could potentially hit the discard pile, and I'm pretty sure they will. There is double custom catcher in the hands of Pacco. Also has access to some energies by way of that Giant Hearth or the Fire Crystal in his hand. And he's holding on to a couple greens as well, so bit of a slower turn.
Did this open up a window for Pacco to be able to jump right back into this game?
I'm going to say yes. I believe that Tord would need to find a lot of fire energies and let them hit the discard pile.
Tord or Pacco?
Tord. And Tord's going to need a ton of fire energies to hit the discard pile so that a Victini could get a return knockout on a Reshiram and Charizard. That's the only way that I see Tord really jumping right back into this thing. For Pacco, he just needs to not use his GX attack here, and if he can get another welder and get a GX attack on the next turn, then he can do 300 and wipe out.
So you're assuming that Reshiram and Charizard is getting knocked out this turn, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the double custom catcher, and he can just...
I mean, I agree with you.
I'm pretty sure he could figure this out.
I mean, well, so it comes down to whether he chooses that line of play or not. And I believe that I do see that double custom catcher in hand. I do believe that that's going to be six fire energies going into the discard pile. I wonder how many fire energies that totals up, though.
Yeah, that's my question right now. I know that Tord's been working through his deck pretty well, but I'm not sure that he's at the point where he's hit 14. 14's pretty tough to do. Of course, he gave himself 18 in his deck. He would need 2 on the Victini to perform the attack, and then he'd need to get just about every energy in his deck in there so that he could take the knockout. Tord goes, oh, man.
There it is. That double custom catcher brings up that Reshiram and Charizard tag team. So already got 110 damage on it. You want to knock this bad boy out. If you can knock out that Reshiram and Charizard, that's not only going to bring you down to 2 prizes remaining, but it's going to leave your opponent with very few options remaining. Now, granted, there's still a Giant Hearth in play. I would love to see that get countered.
Pacco has such a difficult decision to make. He's holding on to Shrine of Punishment. That would mean that Victini needs 1 less energy to knock him out if he plays it. And if Tord of course,
still play it. Still play it.
Well, think about it. It negates 2 energies coming from Tord's deck. But if Tord is holding the Giant Hearth, he just made it 1 damage easier to knock out his active Pokemon. If it's 13 energies, Pacco's going to be thinking about this for a long time.
But don't you still play it though? Like
how many cards are in my opponent's hand? That's the question that I have, because we haven't seen too much from Tord. If he is holding that Giant Hearth, that is going to hurt so much more.
We have a general idea that there's like 6 or 7. Well, there's that communication. How heartbreaking.
Just in time.
How heartbreaking is that? Okay, so I feel like there's something like 9 cards. 6, 7, 8, 9. I
wow,
believe
you're
that there's
good.
You know, it's a gift. I told you, I turn the superpower on when I want. Or not when I want, but whenever it feels like it. All right, 9 fire energies in the discard pile.
What's that card that he's holding?
Oh, my goodness. It is a Giant Hearth.
Yeah, that hurts, right?
Yeah. I mean, you are right. If he has the Giant Hearth, then it looks really bad. But he's triple checking. Yep, still 9. You're going to need 4 more in the discard pile. You can find 2 through your deck. You have 2 in your hand. can you?
He's got Dedenne. He could just throw everything away. He could also use Super Scoop Up.
Okay, so let's see. If he Giant Hearts, okay, down to 10. Do you find 2?
Oh yeah, he's got 2.
So that means that if he can get rid of all of these and find one last fire energy, he's got the knockout, right?
Yep, and he's of course got to use one of these to attach.
Yep. Well, not if you get rid of them all and then find one. I think you get rid of them all now. That way you don't have to discard another one. You don't need more cards to be able to discard another one.
Fair.
So, all right. So that's 13 fires total combined between the discard pile and his hand. 2 left in the deck.
So he needs to find one more total fire before or after the discard.
You Dedenne here, discard them all, draw 6 cards. So one of these has to be a fire.
He could use Super Scoop Up first, grab the Dedenne, then he could go and Communication the Ninetales just to get something out of his deck.
Right. Okay. Super Scoop Up. Heads? Tails? Tails.
Obviously, the correct answer was recycle, or whatever that triangle symbol is. He's delivering a message to the world.
The triangle symbol means recycle to you. All right. I'll keep that in mind. Every time I see a triangle, first thing I'll think about is recycle.
Yeah, you better go green.
All right, there's the
Here we go.
Dedenne change.
Needs 1 fire energy off of this. Has not used his supporter for the turn as well.
Tord agrees, discarding them all. He wants to find 1 fire. 6 cards in hand. Find a fire, yes or no? Find a fire, yes or no? Finds a fire. Found the fire, and he found a Ninetales to go with it. Okay, so that is a 100% guaranteed knockout, correct? We've done our math, triple-checked our math. 13 fires, that's a knockout.
Are the people at home have to trust our math? It is a knockout. I'm
90% sure it's a knockout.
There are 13 fire energies in the discard pile. Tord gets to look at his deck and pick a card. Man, that Jirachi card's good.
Ever the professional, Tord still not getting ahead of himself, still using all the abilities available to him before going for the knockout.
Grabbing Welder's a great card when you're about to shuffle 13 fire energies in your deck. Seems pretty good.
Not too shabby. I've seen worse.
Just gonna grab Communication.
I don't know if I've seen. Well, okay.
Do whatever
I'm not
you want,
questioning Tord.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning Tord. I've learned not to do that.
Don't you dare.
All right.
He's got a Welder already.
He has a Welder already.
It's gonna go down to 1 card in deck.
That's kind of smart, actually. You know, you go down to 1 card in deck, then you shuffle everything in. That way you know you're not just going to keep drawing fires when you would have loved to draw something like a Welder or something along those lines.
Yep, he's holding everything now, and he gets to shuffle all these back in. Victini is pulling his weight.
Okay, so we've gotten excited. We've had our fun, but here's where things start to, you know, let's dial it back down.
Are you raining on my parade?
Let's dial it back down and analyze again, right? Let's do our job.
That's my job. Your job is to just yell.
Yeah, that is true. Let me do your job for you, Kyle.
Thank you so much.
All right, so Infinity is going to shuffle all these energies back in, which means Infinity is no longer going to be dealing damage anymore. It's a one-time feel-good moment, but then you're stuck with a Pokemon that doesn't deal any damage for 2 energy, which means Tord is coming down to 2 prizes. He's drawing 3 cards from his prizes, and that's always great. But he has nothing left to really attack with. Like his board is a bunch of Dedennes and a Ninetales.
What if I told you that this Reshiram cannot knock out that Victini?
I would agree. I would say great analysis, Kyle.
I think Tord does not care at all what's going on. He can take this nice and slow, just keep using Giant Hearth, throw away all these energies, and all he needs to do is...
What are you going to do? Zero him to death? Like, I don't understand. Like, how many times can you use Infinity for 0 to knock out a Reshiram Charizard?
He hasn't used his GX attack. If he can get Victini to place just a little bit of damage and maybe avoid some of those heal cards, he could set up a knockout.
Okay, so Pacco and Tord both have 2 prizes remaining. 2 fires on this Reshiram and Charizard. 3 cards drawn here for Pacco as he's now at a 4-card hand, I believe. Continue your analysis.
No, you're good. What I'm saying is, I see where you're coming from because obviously Tord performed an amazing attack. It was huge, and of course, it's going to be what keeps him in this game. Did it win him the game? Absolutely not. Winning the game from here can be pretty difficult because he does not have a Pokemon that he really wants to attack with. That Victini's doing absolutely nothing for him right now, and getting all those energies into the discard pile becomes infinitely harder when you've already played all of your Dedenne.
Oof. Okay.
All right, we
have an update.
If you guys were wondering about Pidgeotto, it's still in game 1. Shintaro Ito is desperately trying to get through the wall of Pidgeotos and Orangaroos, and it has not turned into anything yet. I think we could have guessed that.
That does kind of spell good news for Isaiah. I think.
as long as he doesn't lose the first game, he's usually in a pretty great spot because he's just looking to play the longest game of anyone's life.
So that is a little bit of an update there as we continue this match between Pacco and Tord. Remember, less than 14 minutes remaining, despite it being a 75-minute round. And that actually does also mean a lot of things, right? Now, if Pacco wins this long, drawn-out game, which he could definitely do, they're both going to have very little time remaining on the clock for this final game 3 between these two players. Now, with that said, all right, let's get back to the action. We saw an outrage for 40.
Just pick one. His tech is 11 energies and a welder.
Very unlucky to still have that welder in the deck.
Oh, this is beautiful. He actually, this is really bad for Tord. He does not have a super scoop up. So as he continues to get all of these fire energies into his hand, he has no way to get rid of them. He would love to play these all out. I wonder if he sees 2 fires.
Like if you giant hearth for like 4 turns and then
you super scoop up a Dedenne and then throw everything away.
Exactly.
That's exactly what he wants to do, and I'm sure he's done that in testing hundreds of times. But right now, he's just like, man, I can't. What am I supposed to do here? He can do, what, 40? Maybe he can try to do some interesting things with retreats and set up to do some damage. Maybe he can get Ninetales in as an attacker.
Yeah,
that's what weird.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe a Ninetales as an attacker could be. I mean, granted, you're going up against the Reshiram and Charizard, so maybe Ninetales isn't exactly up to the task.
He drew the welder.
He drew the welder.
All right, now we know what his whole deck is.
Very Tord-like. Very, very Tord-like to draw the welder here.
Well, he's got a lot of weird cards. No way to really win, but yeah, this is beautiful. He just knows he needs to keep playing cards, get fire energies into the discard pile.
I love how he's just using the ability to, well, I mean, granted, the ability is actually kind of relevant here to bring up the Volcanium, but at the same time, get more fires in the discard pile. If you keep doing this, you are going to eventually start building up a relevant amount of fires. Now, with that said, do you just let the Victini stay there? Oh, nice. I can see this.
He keeps attaching all these energies, and I'm thinking Heat Train's going to come down. I don't even think it's available.
You know what I like about this? You know what I like about this game? Oh, geez. That's just funny. Congratulations, Tord. You made me laugh, buddy. He knew exactly what he was stellar wishing for, by the way.
That was the best thing I've ever seen.
He even paralyzed the Jirachi to do this. All right, so what I really like about this game, if you let me get to a little bit of analysis here.
No.
Is
all right, go ahead.
It feels like a pre-release game at this point.
This is so great.
Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, you're now maneuvering. You're using a lot of like little special tactics here, right? Like you're trying to make sure the Victini doesn't get knocked out.
We are playing Puka's Cube right now.
Exactly.
This is exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like you're playing with these starter deck cards. You're playing with these cards that just are. You're playing a game where you're trying to keep a 90-point Pokemon from being knocked out.
He threw away a Fire Crystal to look in his deck with Giant Earth. He has no fire energies in his deck.
Oh, boy.
I love this game.
All right, Shintaro won game 1.
Whoa!
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
I actually expected Isaiah to win this after it got to being a 60-minute game. I assumed if it's a 60-minute game, Isaiah's probably winning.
He knows that he cannot win a game like that. He would have to. It would have to be the weirdest game ever with Recycle Energies attached to a Rangaroo doing 60 in Confusion for ever and ever and ever.
Right. And we actually see a handshake here as well, as now Pacco
He had double
taken
custom catcher to take that Dedenne.
Double custom catcher from Pacco here does give him the knockout on the Dedenne. They shake hands, and there's 12 minutes remaining on the clock as they're about to move to game 3.
This is the best. This is exactly what we want. This is exactly how it should come. We have the underdog making that wild comeback against one of the crazier games we've ever seen. Wasn't too unlikely for him, but of course still had to perform at his best to get there. Toward Reklev, he did everything he could in that match, in that game, but it was just weird. They've got 9 minutes to find a winner here. Of course, we cannot have a tie going into the top 8, eventually finding who is going to be in the top 4. So best 2 out of 3. Eventually will come down to which player is able to take the most prize cards here.
Wow. Okay. As we unwind after that game.
Do we have to? I want to ride that forever.
I am pretty winded up, I'm not going to lie. It was just so many different things happening right there. Like, the fact that I saw the Victini retreat, and if Pacco didn't find something along the lines of like double custom catcher, for example, then this could have very realistically become a Toward Reklev game.
If there was one custom catcher in the prize cards, I feel like Toward Reklev wins that game.
So weird.
It was weird. Yeah.
And now we're seeing Pacco, who we do know is brand new to this game, playing for less than 24 months, going up against Toward Reklev, and is now 1 game away from eliminating Toward and moving on to the Final 4. At this point in time, even if you're Pacco, even if you're just happy to be here, even if you're smiling, during games 1 and 2, look at how serious you become for game 3. It's now, it feels real now, right?
Oh yeah, this is where you have to turn it up. He's, of course, been having a great time. You can see it on Toward's face as well, too. He knows how much this means. He had a ton of fun in that second game, and it doesn't mean that you can't have fun in this third game as well, but you got to make sure that you're playing 100% because both players are going to be ready, and they've got decks that can just go off. And if you miss one piece, do one thing incorrectly, your opponent can take advantage of that and knock you straight out of this tournament.
Even the shuffling is intense to me right now. I'm not going to lie.
Slamming those cards. Do it, man.
It feels intense. It feels like they both have that moment that, that the weight of the world on their shoulders throughout for these final 10 minutes of the match. They've been playing for over 65 minutes at this point. It's been back and forth. We've seen both strategies for this Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX Pokemon. Both of these strategies work out for both players. We've seen the strengths and the weaknesses of both decks. And we've seen just how everything, right down to the stadium, matters in this matchup.
I've got great news. Both players have amazing hands. This is going to be fun.
And I do not see terrible prizes here for Pacco. Let's see Towards. So far, a Welder, never a good start. And a Dedenne.
Not bad.
Not terrible. Not terrible.
Yeah.
Started off kind of bad with a Welder, but it ended up looking just fine.
This is going to be a great one. One to remember, of course, these players do have a little under 9 minutes, potentially 8 minutes now. We'll have to check that counter. They're going to have to perform.
6 minutes.
Man, that was a lot of shuffling.
Yeah,
so we're going to see. We actually,
right away.
If you remember, Toward's opening turn of game 1 lasted 6 minutes.
Yeah, you're all right.
We could certainly see Toward play a very long turn just like that. Maybe he knows the intensity's up and he's got to play a bit faster, but we could see one of those 300 damage, boom, it's over kind of games if the clock lands just right.
Another thing is, though, that your internal clock is a little bit off when you're playing these 75-minute games. You're used to these shorter rounds, so your internal clock is used to them too.
Maybe for Pacco. Toward's been here, and he's done that so much. He's probably almost adjusted to that.
Fair enough.
He can turn it on and knows when it's 75-minute time. If anyone in the world has that 75-minute clock, I would give it to Toward. But I see where you're coming from.
I think we're about to find out, right?
Yeah,
like if Toward just rushes through this turn, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And hats off to Toward for that. But if he doesn't, then that's kind of expected. It's one of those things where you're just not used to playing in these 75-minute rounds, and sometimes they sneak up on you before you know it. You're like, whoa! I thought I had infinite time to finish my my match.
I was just looking with Stellar Wish at Fire Energies. What do you mean the game's over?
Right. So the pressure of the moment still being felt by both of these players. Remember, one of these players is about to be eliminated. The other player will be moving on to the top 4 and will be playing in our final match of the night.
Well, Tord does not have to worry about being conservative with that pal pad. Eventually, he's absolutely just going to go ahead and put that in so that he can find that welder as soon as possible. We do know he has one of the prizes, so he is back to having 3 now.
Pokemon communication, potentially finding that Jirachi that he put at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, it's always a great way out of tough situations. You want to have that on your bench. If you do find a skateboard, it's a great place to slap that as well. And he's got that Dedenne in hand. You have to assume that he's going to go ahead and keep on pushing, right? Don't want to just walk right into a power plant pass or something.
Pressure him in Charizard with 3 fire energies on it already. Jeez.
This deck's good.
Must be nice. It really is, though. It really, really is.
All right, actually, I mentioned that the Dedenne probably should happen, but he had another Giant Hearth in hand. He would have had the counter stadium to a power plant. Of course, seeing all these cards and getting them into your hand right now is great. It also means that you have a potential second Dedenne as you be able to play a Dedenne on your following turn now.
Down to 3.5 minutes remaining.
This helps out a ton. Has Pokemon communication plus a Pokemon plus multiple fire energies as well. So Tord is in a very great spot. We're going to have to see how Pacco decides to combat this.
Does pass, does Tord. So did not waste too much time thinking there. Saw that he had additional options, but time is of the essence. He wants to give himself at least one more turn, so he passes the turn over to Pacco. Pacco now, does he feel the pressure of the moment, and is he going to rush through this turn to try to give himself an additional turn?
Well, just to speak from making sure that he plays all of his outs correctly, he did use that Giant Hearth to start himself off. Does have Welder in hand, but I fully expect him to use that Pokegear first. If he was able to find a card like his Greens Exploration, he could put himself in a pretty favorable spot. He'd love to find a Cherish Ball so that he could start to get his own Reshiram and Charizard up.
He's about to
frantically looking.
Oh my goodness. On the final card, the literal 7th card was that Welder, so he was about to miss with that Pokegear.
That's not what he wants. He has a Welder in his hand.
I'll take 2 Welders over 1 Welder and nothing.
I won't. I want my greens, and I'm going to complain until I get it.
Just put it right back in there. All right.
He's just going to Welder for 1. He did not find a Reshiram and Charizard. He's just got some Volcanions playing against the best player in the world.
Wow. Okay, so I'm not going to call it yet, but less than 2 minutes remaining now. We're at the 2-minute warning. Reset stamp. Wow, okay, nice reset stamp by Pacco, but still, you have 3 energy on a Reshiram and Charizard. Oh, man. Where are your Reshiram and Charizards?
Where are they? This hand goes nowhere.
It really does. It has nothing going for it.
Of course, he can go ahead and grab these 3 fire energies because he's going second. Get those onto his benched Volcanion.
But why not attach 2 fires onto... Well, okay, that's fine.
It's fine.
Finish your turn before time's up, and you still give yourself a little bit more of a chance. You're just going to need a lot of help from the top of your deck.
If Tord's turn ends, and he is not turn 0, I feel like a 100% Tord wins this game.
I agree.
In the match.
I do completely agree, given this... given these 2 starts.
This is where the internal clock really matters.
Yes, exactly. Like, how do you know with... 75 minutes left. Like, there's just...
If he gets it down to the penny, he's done this before. He is very good with this clock. He knows what he's doing.
All right. Less than 45 seconds left. 40 seconds left on the clock now. Remember, these are the final turns. One of these players is about to be eliminated. Very crucial turn here for Tord. Plays a Cherish Ball to start this turn off. I would just be very surprised if he can manage to end this turn before time is called. Yeah,
I don't see it happening, honestly. This Cherish Ball's taking a little bit too long. But, I mean, he's got the luxury. He saw his opponent wasn't able to do absolutely anything with the way that turned out.
So it looks like, unless anything is wrong here, this is going to be towards turn 0, which means he's going to be able to have this turn and 1 additional turn. Pacco, on the other hand, still has a couple of turns to go, but he's going to need a lot of help out of the top of his deck, as the current situation is just looking very, very grim for Pacco. Still has an acro bike in hand.
No word just yet.
No
on
word
time.
as to whether time has been called or not.
Do you see switch in his hand?
And there is always that chance that, maybe the clock is off by a minute or so. Every once in a while they add a little bit additional time, or the clock's just off by a tiny bit. But we don't actually know that quite yet. We don't know if time is called yet. We will let you guys know as soon as we find out. Vulpix gets switched onto the bench, which promotes Jirachi.
Would love
Jirachi
to see
wishing upon a star.
Giant Hearth or a Heat Factory here. That would help him out a ton. He does not have access to that Dedenne because of the power plant. Oh, he found the Giant Hearth again.
There's that. Yeah, no kidding. Giant Hearth again. It's bedtime for Jirachi, but not before
Doesn't
he
even
finds the welder.
want it. He's just going to use the welder, get all these energies onto his Charizard. I think he has an idea of how much time's left because he's just going to bring up a Charizard, hit for 230, and say, I think you can't beat this guy.
All right. Is this turn 0? Is it not? Is Tord about to advance to the top 4? Okay, so actually, I believe there's still a little bit of time left on the clock. Something along the lines of a little over 2 minutes.
Oh, he did. He found a stadium off of the welder, so he could counter that power plant if he wanted. Of course, it is a Heat Factory. No need to play that just yet. You don't want to help your opponent and let them potentially draw out of this big issue that they've had.
I believe that was a tail on Super Scoop-Ups, right?
He got heads, and he removed Dedenne. This is Tord thinking about time. He doesn't want to let his opponent knock out a Dedenne off of some wild welder double custom catcher shenanigans.
And remember, because there was still 2 minutes left on the clock a little while ago, that means that Tord could potentially get another turn at, well, almost certainly will get another turn after this one.
Yeah, now it'll be up to when Pacco
Right.
finishes his turn,
Right.
honestly.
So if Pacco just draws and attacks, then, everything's off the table, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. He still has a welder in hand. And honestly, I just want this game to be more competitive. So I really do hope that that Pacco draws a little bit better than he's drawn here, because it's almost anticlimactic.
If he even, what could he draw that could help him here, though? That's my question. Even if he gets a Reshiram set up, he needed to have it the previous turn, or else there's...
Well, here's a Dedenne coming down, which is a little bit of a risky play from Tord, right? Because then Custom Catcher, combined with a lot of other stuff, could mean a 2-prize knockout from Pacco.
And then he gets knocked out by a Reshiram and Charizard.
Yes.
So...
Yes. I said a little bit of a risk. I didn't say a major risk.
I don't want to say the writing's on the wall, but the kids are holding crayons.
Heat Factory draws 3 cards for Tord. All right. Well, there is a switch in hand for Tord as well. Can Tord get aggressive here? Or will Tord choose to get aggressive here? Super Scoop Up first.
I love the way he rolls the Super Scoop
Yeah,
Up.
he even
It's
does
like,
that with
it's
intensity.
like his life depends on this flip. I don't think there could be a more irrelevant flip in his life right now. Gotta love it.
It's the intensity of the moment, Kyle. You wouldn't know anything about it. Oh. Left you speechless.
Inferno.
Tord Reklev continues his turn. This has been a long turn, by the way.
Yeah, we might see time get called anyways. Who
I'm
knows?
not gonna lie to you. I actually feel like I heard time get called, but I mean, then again, every once in a while, the super senses, the superpowers, they malfunction.
Yeah. I mean, you can't turn it on, so.
Like I said, it just comes at random times, and every once in a while, it's a false start. It's really more of a curse than a superpower if you think about it. There's the one fire onto that Reshiram and Charizard tag team. Don't need damage counters for this one.
Double blaze.
Not quite yet. Let's not get excited. Let's not lie to the fans.
Outrage.
Okay, I don't know.
All right, if he doesn't use Double Blaze and he doesn't use Outrage, what's he going to do?
I mean, he could technically pass. There is
Okay,
still that.
right.
There is still that out.
That's risky, but I love it.
But I would prefer to go with big bad Flare Strike for a knockout here. That's just me though. You know, color me crazy. Toward Reklev. Is he on the brink of making a top 4 here at the World Championship, one-upping his previous best record, which happened about an hour ago?
Go Tord.
Cherish Ball. All right, if time hasn't been called yet, it's got to be called now.
Yeah,
right?
even grabbing the Heatran, he's got that option available to him.
And I feel like he's starting to play really slowly, so maybe time has been called at this point. Like at this point, it seems like he's playing.
This is generally when the
yeah.
judges just kind of let you play.
Yeah, like it feels like he's playing much more comfortably. So I'm just gonna assume that the superpower was correct once again.
Can we call it anything else? It makes you sound like you're like great.
Makes me sound. Makes me sound. The double-handedness there. Like I said, I didn't ask for them. They just happened. Like any great hero.
Well, if anyone here has a superpower, it's toward Reklev. He has found 6 energy Reshiram and Charizard for the second time this match. And I don't see how Pacco gets out of this.
There's a switch now.
He's going to even bring up the Heatran here. No reason to risk his Reshiram and Charizard. Might be
Risk how?
I don't know.
Like, you would have to assume that your opponent plays double energy switch.
Is there like a fire mountain that can?
Yeah, I mean, double energy switch doesn't do it. I just don't even think that there's literally anything.
I know, right?
If anything, this is a much easier Pokemon to knock out.
I agree.
Like, this actually could get knocked out by a double energy switch. Not saying that that would happen, but I am saying that it's more likely to get knocked out than Reshiram and Charizard.
Is there a double blaze opportunity?
I don't think so. Like, how? How do you get the double blaze off? Like, you would need Welder, double fire, plus another fire, plus a way to switch out the Volcanion?
Yeah, we're asking a lot.
Well, okay. There's a Welder.
Heatran has 190 hit points.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually...
Was this weird? Did this get too weird?
Yes.
Does Tord now
I'm
need
going to
to
answer your question. The answer is yes.
Tord
However,
now
he
put
still
himself
doesn't
on
have
finding Welder?
Oh, you know what, though? I think Volcanion only has 2 retreat, though.
Automatic play. Yeah.
Volcanion has 2 retreat, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Volcanion having 2 retreat. Yes, I mean, this is... What is going on here?
Well, Tord gave him a knockout. If Tord has Welder, then he just double blazes and wins. Power Plant is now played.
Yeah, but what if your opponent reset stamps you or something like that?
This is exactly what you were talking about. This is when the Heatran play might have gotten a little too cute.
I just don't see a reason to use it. I just don't see a reason for the Heatran.
Tord's hand is bad.
Does it have a Welder?
He has three or 4 energies. The Jirachi actually needs to save him here, I believe.
Uh-oh. Okay, so he still has access to Jirachi.
He has 1 Welder in the prize cards.
Yes, he does have 1 Welder in the prize cards. We are correct. I believe this is about to be turn 2. I mean, honestly, don't quote me on this. We have no idea.
He just object like the best card he could have gotten. He has the counter stadium now. He has the Pokemon communication, and he has Dedenne, or a Pokemon, so that he could find Dedenne. So he could draw out of this potentially. If Jirachi finds him the Welder, he just wins the game.
Also keep in mind, because Ninetales is there, he can still tie the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this, but it leaves it open for Pacco to do interesting things with Custom Catcher, and depending on what turn they're on, he could just take the right prize at the right time. So we do see that Tord's going to thin out, grab that Dedenne. I fully expect him to use that Giant Hearth, grab 2 more fires out of his deck, then use his Jirachi. If the Jirachi then finds himself that Welder, I believe he's only got 2 there. Yeah, he's got 2 welders there. Acrobite could potentially find him that card as well. Looks like he's about at 15 cards too, so it's getting a little choppy for him.
Okay. We are verifying what turn it is right now. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Verification is this is turn 2. It is what I thought it was, which is, when Tord started slowing down.
They are who we thought they were.
And when Tord started slowing down, that meant that time had already been called.
Yes.
Which meant now this is Tord's final turn.
If Tord takes this knockout, I don't think there's any way possible.
Right. If Tord takes this knockout, it actually is just over. I don't see it.
Well, I mean, there is...
with outside...
there actually is no way. There's the GX attack's already been used. There's no way that he could do 160 damage to the Dedenne off of double custom catcher shenanigans.
Okay, so here we go. Dedenne.
So Tord does not play the doesn't use the Giant Hearth yet. So he has those energies available if he does find the Welder. Going to draw these cards first.
Of course.
Does find Welder.
Of course, did not.
I think that's just it, right?
Ability.
That's just.
Wow. Did he have double fire with the Welder? I think he did. I'm pretty sure
he's got 3 energies.
He has Giant Hearth too. He hasn't used Giant Hearth.
Yeah, he's got that. I'm curious as to why he took a step back there. I don't know if he's just taking in the moment.
I think he's just excited.
Lost his headset.
Maybe there was like a little bit of like feedback.
Maybe the fly attacked him.
That's very possible. Trust me, that fly has been bugging everybody here this entire weekend. All right, but yes, I believe he's got the Welder. I believe he's got the fires. I believe he's got the knockout on this Reshiram and Charizard.
I believe. He.
There's just no way Pacco can come back.
He can't. He can't. All right, this is where you just make sure that you play this as perfect. You just retreat.
Okay. So now we have to actually have to be careful with our words because
the players lost their white noise.
Yeah, the players lost their white noise, which explains why Tord had to take his headset off.
For what it's worth, we'll let the game explain itself. We can describe what's occurring on the table and what you guys see. We're not going to mention any cards that are in the hand from this point forward. So if you guys do get to see that, of course,
we won't be mentioning
yourself.
any additional strategies. We're just going to be making sure that we don't ruin the outcome of this game. So
we both get to be the play-by-play. This is great.
Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
Your
Kyle.
job's so easy.
It certainly is.
He's got an escape board, guys. He can retreat. All right, they got white noise back.
Strategy, baby.
All right, he's got a cherish ball in his hand. He can do anything he wants.
He really does have access to pretty much the entire, the world is his oyster, Kyle.
Wow, he saw it. He retreated.
He did see it. He did retreat. He is now going to be able to knock out the Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX. That's going to put him ahead with only 2 prizes remaining as against Pacco's 4. With Pacco having no energy in play and having already used his GX attack, I have to believe that the final turn for Pacco is just going to be extending the hand.
Yeah, I think that big slap is going to be the last thing that Pacco sees in top 8. He can go ahead and play this turn out, but he is down 2 prize cards, and he has no way to do enough damage to tie this game up. He's already used his GX attack, so Dedenne will no longer be a target. There would have to be something impossible. There has to be a new card released in Unified Minds that I've never seen before and that is not in his deck that he slipped in there because he cannot do this.
At the same time,
he can do it.
He has fought hard to get here.
Absolutely.
As a newer player to the game, the moment was not lost upon him. He enjoyed it to the absolute maximum potential.
There we go.
Had a smile on his face from beginning to end, and it ends with a handshake as he extends the hand, and Tord Reklev moves on to the top 4 of the Pokemon Trading Card Game 2019 World Championships, Kyle.
Clap, clap, clap. Clappy, clap, slap. Don't need white noise to hear that. That is exactly what Tord wanted. He was able to show off all of the abilities of his deck and did an amazing job. Both these guys just showing